guys, and welcome to the Paradox podcast. This is our pilot episode, so we're not even certain on the name yet, but it should be very interesting to say the least. Joining me today, we have myself, the Spiffing Brit, aka the time-lapse guy, but I don't just make fucking time-lapses. You guys need to understand that. Next up, we have Feedback Gaming.
Hi, I'm the guy who does YouTubes as well, and I'm the guy who does the top 10 videos. But I also do other things as well. I do playthroughs, and I also do tutorials and whatnot, not just top 10s.
Okay, then we have Fraser. He's our random guy. Say hello.
Hello, I'm Fraser, also known as Ricky,
He's our special guest.
and I'm just super random.
There you go. He's also German, and that's a very redeemable feature.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Right. Then we have Glenn Games. He's our friend from the States, representing all the Americans out there today. Introduce yourself, Glenn.
Hello! I'm Glenn Games. I usually do modern day mod for Hearts of Iron 4 stuff, but I'm also here to check out some Steel Division Normandy.
Very good. Yes, that will probably be our first topic of the day. Steel Division Normandy. Now, for people that aren't aware, Steel Division Normandy 1944, or whatever it's called, is the upcoming game to be released from Paradox Interactive, also in partners with Eugene Systems or whatever it is. Now, my thoughts of the game are I'm quite excited. Now, that's very rare for me because the last time I got excited about a game, No Man's Sky punched me in the balls so hard that I had to go see a doctor. So what's your thoughts and feelings about Normandy?
So they've released a video, haven't they? So that's the first. So one of the official Paradox Interactive Twitch showed us the first actual gameplay footage. And I'll be honest with you, it didn't catch me what I thought it would. I was kind of surprised what I saw. So I was expecting like a kind of a Company of Heroes kind of spin-off, but it's almost like something in between Company of Heroes and kind of the strategy map mode of Hoi 4. They've like gone for something in between.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. It's very similar to. You probably haven't played that the War Game franchise, Dave, have you?
No.
Okay, right. That is where the War Game franchise is at, where you're still above the battlefield, so you can't go necessarily right down onto the field, but you're nowhere near as zoomed out as you are in Hearts of Iron 4.
Yeah.
So I was going to say also, War Game is also the ones that are making the game with Paradox, right?
Yeah, Eugene Systems. They also made Ruse and the War Game franchise.
Explain to me, so what's the War Game franchise?
So it's very similar to Paradox Interactive in that it's they also have very strange ideas of what a DLC should be. So Eugene Systems, the War Game, the War Game franchise, it's kind of like, it started out being just a game where you played the Total War battles almost. So you're down on the battlefield ordering troops around in little divisions, and they might riot and you can have fights and battles. But the multiplayer was probably the most redeeming feature, the fact they could be 10v10. Actually, I think the first game was only 8v8. And the fact that you were fighting with almost modern infantry and technology was the most redeeming feature for people at the time. So it's kind of like a grand strategy armor.
Yeah. So who are you in that case? I mean, in fact, I don't know the answer to this. So if, for instance, a general commands an army, right? So who could, because what you're looking at in 1944 Normandy is you're commanding a battalion, aren't you? So who commands a battalion? Does anyone actually know? That's a bit of...
No idea, mate. I don't know.
That's what I mean. I was trying to say, oh, so your overhead view is of a battalion leader as such? You know what I mean? Like, so is that the same as in Warband? Are you kind of like a battalion leader?
Yeah.
You're a general of some sort, because I know at least in the U.S. Army, a brigadier general or a major general usually commands a battalion.
Ah, right. Okay, yeah. That actually makes sense, actually. Because I remember in Hoi 2, you wouldn't just have generals and field marshals, you had everything below it as well. And now you say that, brigadier general was a step like below a regular general. I think you could command like 8 divisions or something like that, and you had to kind of work your way up from there.
Yeah, I do remember that as well. So now that we actually have the first gameplay footage, and Dave mentioned how he wasn't very impressed by it, What's your views on the graphics? Because that is generally one of the main redeeming features of the war game franchise.
I kind of struggled with it because I felt like there wasn't a lot to see. Now, I know my expectations are kind of limited because you've only got this little bit of like live stream footage, but I guess for the most part, everything just seems so unbelievably tiny that I couldn't make anything out. And I guess if we're gonna rank the graphics based on what we see, then I suppose the ground texture looks quite nice, I suppose.
Well, from what I saw, because I zoomed in quite a bit, it looks very fresh. It is not the best, but it looks also very arcadey, at least the effects, like the smoke trails off of artillery.
Yeah, they
Stuff
are.
like that. So it looks very arcadey, not aimed to be that realistic in the effects department.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they've ported most of the explosions and sounds over from the previous wargame games. And Christ, that's such a terrible word to say. And I didn't like the explosions there. They didn't add much of a feel. For me, the benefit of the explosions in the game was that an explosion would take out a building, and that building would be down for the rest of the game. So that cover would be gone. So I appreciated that form of the explosions, but otherwise I found the animations to be very almost copy and pasted over and over again. The explosions didn't seem unique, and so it kind of took away from the realistic experience of a World War.
Is it the same?
I think if you're talking about like previous war games to what they're making now, I think the graphics have actually really upgraded since the last one, though.
What, since War Game Red Dragon?
Yeah, I think so.
2014?
I don't know, but it's hard for me to say because War Game Red Dragon was probably the war game that I played the least out of. But oh God, my memory of the graphics was that they were very filtered, so it kind of felt like you were playing the entire game through some really like cheap, crappy Snapchat filter.
Mm-hmm.
It was just added a tint that, for me, was, I suppose maybe if you're a general who wears sunglasses all the time, it's very realistic, but it just took away from the experience for me.
Do you think this has somehow become integrated with Hoi 4 at some point? You know, like we've got that like it was the exporter of save games. I don't know. Is there going to be some kind of weird scenario where maybe they're going to like try and synergize Hoi 4 with this new Normandy 944? Can you think how that would work? Because it'd be kind of like the victories that you have on the battlefield would reflect on the ones on the grand battle map in Hoi 4.
I would actually really love them to add a system
That
like
would
that.
be, yeah, that'd be really good. Because not only do you get the grand strategy of, you know, watching over your own nation, but then you also that really it defines if you're going to win or lose the war.
There's a mod, isn't there, for a Europe
Yeah, Dave,
Universalis?
it's in the later war game. Oh, sorry, you glitched out there, Dave. So
Yeah, in EU4 there's a mod you can download, and it works with one of the Total War games where what happens is when two armies collide with each other, the game pauses on EU4, and then you make the actual custom battle in the Total War game. You play out the battle as it actually is, and then depending on the result of the battle, you click like from a like decisive victory or defeat, whatnot. You pick the one that was relevant, that actually happened, that you played out in the Total War games, and that reflects on what actually happens in EU4. I don't know. I just the reason I brought that up is I felt like that was kind of like what would happen if those two kind of games synergized.
yeah, I agree. That the only problem is that would take a really long time.
Agreed. That was my first thought as well. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like,
That was exactly the first.
it's like 3,000 troops meet 3,000 troops. Like, what the hell? That's the smallest battle. Do I really have to play that out in Total War?
Yeah, God, that it's just in that sense, it's not very practical. But the concept is amazing. The ability to go from all the way zoomed out and doing a lot of macro managing to then going right down to the battlefield. It feels great for a time, but I feel it could be really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, how do you guys feel about like just fighting on one map in one specific battle in this? Like, do you think, because I've seen, I think, a few screenshots of, I hope they're going to be adding winter and maybe the Eastern Front with the Soviets coming in from Berlin. I know it's just concentrated on Normandy, but a cool DLC that they might add for this game is adding the Soviets parts. That way you could fight as the Soviet Union as well.
Yeah. Well, I agree there. The problem with Eugene Systems is in their previous games they have actually released free DLC, but it's been to a similar degree as how Paradox have done it. So what they tended to do was Eugene released a map pack, but they wouldn't release the armies that went along with it necessarily. So they'd release a couple new maps and maybe a new scenario, but you didn't have access to the armies of the actual nations that would be fighting in it. So in that sense, I could see that extending the battlefield would be a great idea in terms of money for them. It's the kind of thing Paradox would love to do.
I think if you did make kind of scenarios as in kind of like battles in 1944, I think that would be really successful. I was kind of surprised how popular like Hoi 3 and Hoi 2 kind of battle scenarios were, because I played them in Hoi 2 and I didn't think they were that great. I preferred the Grand Battle map. People like got really excited about them, like specifically like the Spanish Civil War or the Suez Crisis or the Battle of Stalingrad, and I was really mad on them. What did you guys feel about those? I wasn't even that.
Yeah, I wasn't. I don't actually have much to say about it, so Glenn, you should talk.
I was gonna say, I mean, for me, I mean, I like the small end battles like Stalingrad and Suez, but for me, it's grand strategy. I love watching just the whole entire map. Like for me, I don't really care about the small end battles, but I mean, Stalingrad and the Suez were cool just because I knew a lot before that within like researching World War II stuff. I wanted to see some things on Stalingrad, but for me, it's just grand strategy. I love seeing the entire map.
Glenn, would you say that you love seeing the entire map change, like one nation grow, one nation fall? Because if you do, you should watch your time lapse every now and then.
Trust me, I've seen a time lapse or one or two from you. Don't worry.
Whoa, I thought you did more than just time lapses.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I do more than time lapses.
Exposed.
What I've decided to do recently is I made another playlist called Comedy Videos, not Time Lapses, because, Christ, I need to, like, show people that there is something else out there that isn't just a time lapse. Oh, well. That's fine. So,
what do you think about, like, with the battles here in Steel Division Normandy 44, do you think because of all the trees and like the factories that they have and all of the environmental things, it's going to give your troops a lot of things to cover? So do you think like you need to have more units for this type of game?
It's a bit early to say though, because I mean, the demonstration that they showed. I mean, have you seen the footage that they did on live?
Yeah,
stream?
I watched a little bit of the footage.
Yeah, I mean, from what I watched, I mean, I didn't really feel like there was enough there to kind of divulge. Like, it felt almost like, yeah, I understand that they were actually playing the game, and I don't doubt that, but it just kind of felt like everything was very demonstratory. You know, I felt like, oh, that thing that just happened there with that explosion firing off, I was like, oh, that was kind of predetermined, maybe even scripted. I don't know. It's difficult to say from that footage whether those army sizes that you saw on the map are actually going to what the end game's going to be. Who knows? There could be more, there could be less. I think the only thing I could say from that footage, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm detouring here, but the only thing I can say that I really would enjoy is I like this idea of a clean map with all the trees, all the farms, all the buildings and whatnot, all kind of fine and untouched. And then as it goes into the battle, everything gets completely destroyed and wrecked, and it kind of gives the idea of complete destruction. Because I think that's the impression that I got when I first saw it. I was like, well, it's just kind of a farm in France, you know? It doesn't really excite me too much, you know?
Yeah. Glenn, you mentioned the cover, and wargame games are not known for cover. It's basically, if you want cover, you put infantry in the building and everything else sits behind a bush. If there is cover, it just gets blown up and it doesn't matter.
Everyone sits behind the bush? The whole army sits behind that bush? That must be a fucking big bush, Spiffing.
Dave, come on, you've seen your mum.
Oh, whoa! Whoa! I'll have you know. Moving on.
Oh god, Ricky, were you going to say something, or Fraser?
Yeah, from what I saw is that the cover system works like in Company of Heroes, kind of like where you have a good cover, medium cover, and like bad cover. So if you put infantry into trees, they will have good cover because it's infantries. But if you put a tank into the tree lines, it will be just medium cover. because it's a huge tank. So from what the gameplay I saw was that if you select an infantry and like hover your mouse over like certain things, you will see a green like a shield icon, literally like in Combat of Heroes, which determines how good your cover is. So you can basically go like that. But if you go into more detail into gameplay, it's like the gameplay itself looks very interesting, and that you can the cover system also works on views, like certain like obstruction, like houses obstruct views, and so
Yeah, it's got a
from that
spotting
point of view,
mechanic.
it is very interesting.
I played the Warhammer game, and when you were describing the cover system, then it kind of sounded a bit like that, because there's like light cover and there was heavy cover. I guess this kind of reminds me a little bit of oh man, what was that space game? God damn, XCOM. It kind of reminds me a little bit of XCOM as well, like 'cause that has like I know it's not an area-based cover mechanic. It's kind of obviously because it's a tile-based game, XCOM, so it's based on very specific to what tile you sit on. But based on what you told me, the Warhammer series. Did any of you guys play the Warhammer series, the RTS?
Yeah, Dawn of War stuff.
Yeah, like, because you had a crater that would class as light cover, and then obviously you have a solid structure such as a building that would be heavy cover. I know that kind of very similarly reminds me of that. I probably would understand that wouldn't work too much in it. I mean, that's a good question. I'm kind of making the assumption here. Are they trying to create a scenario where it's kind of historical? Like, are they trying to make it like real life? Or because someone just mentioned before about being arcadey. Whereabouts are they going with this?
Yeah.
I said it was arcade because of the effects. So you can see literally where enemy artillery was firing from because you can see the smoke trail. In real life,
Right.
obviously, a smoke trail is not there. So
what
that's
I've-
why I said it was arcadey. But
What
I don't
I've
think
read
that,
into
that,
it-
What is it?
Sorry, you go.
All right. From what I see is the game. From the view of the gameplay, it feels really weird because yes, it is kind of realistic, but also not. Just because of how the system itself works, because yes, explosions do kill stuff, but at the same time they don't sometimes. At least from what I saw from the gameplay. So it was really awkward to see, like, from the gameplay how arcade or realistic it is.
I think the historicalness is coming from the flavor of like the units, because what I was reading into is it has like over 400 historically accurate like units. But what I've seen from the footage of what they threw up on their live stream or like the trailer and other screenshots that I've seen, the gameplay of it isn't really historical, but the looks of the units I think is what's going to actually be the historical part.
That's my one problem there. The fact that they threw up the 400 units, like individual special units or whatever, they put up a similar number for like Wargame, Red Dragon, and all of the other war games. And what you're getting isn't really 400 unique units. You're getting about 40 reskinned versions of the same infantry. You're getting maybe 20 infantry with varied weapons, and that's about it. You're not really getting a unique way of playing the game. You're getting more of a reskin, and especially the Wargame franchise isn't well known for its animations, because you run a squad of men into a fight, and if the guy on the far left gets hit by an explosion, all of them do the exact same like recoil animation or whatever, all at the same time. So it looks almost like Mass Effect 4 level of destroyed animations.
If they want people to kind of really attach to this and really enjoy the experience, I think focusing on the actual specific vehicles and the actual units is kind of what they're going to be the way forward. And I feel like if you're zooming in from a Hoi 4 perspective directly to this 1944 one, I think that's going to be something that you're going to need regardless, isn't it? Because what we're doing now is we're changing counters into actual kind of like, as weird as it might sound, but like actual like toy vehicles and actual toy soldiers as such. You know, we've gone to a zoom level in now that we're actually moving around the little men themselves. So I feel like if you're gonna have those vehicles, those historic, particularly like I don't know, like people say specific like tanks or planes like Spitfire, Sherman, or Tiger tank, they see those iconic historical vehicles, and I don't know, that particularly turns them on. And I feel like if you're not putting that extra detail into those specific units, you're probably not going to get much. But then again, I digress again. But I feel like we're not at that level yet to even say, because This is the first time we've seen this footage. Have they got a release date yet?
The Paradox contact said later this year, so that's about as vague as we're going to get. But my guess is that it would probably be up for a public release around November, maybe sometime leading up to a Christmas release might be a good idea. Could be what they're aiming for. Or actually, knowing Paradox, they like to release it on specific days related to World War II. So I could see them doing some kind of thing related to maybe a historical event happening around October or November or December. Because that's the kind of schedule I think they could release it by.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
What do you guys think about not only the land combat that we saw, but they also have the aerial combat, air superiority really matters. At least it looks like in this game, that like if you don't have air superiority in some of your units might fall apart.
How will the air superiority actually work though? Because
that's another thing that I'm questioning, because like it looks like the planes in this game, at least they have a significant effect on the units that are on the ground.
Yeah, but is it in terms of damage or in terms of morale? Because
I think it's in terms of morale. I don't think it's in terms of damage.
Yeah, because what I remember from the previous war games was that the planes they were in the map for a second and then they left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think. Well, I would assume. I mean, I'm making a guess here because I never studied that footage that closely, but I would assume you would have almost like a cooldown timer, and when it was ready, you'd call it, and then an airstrike would come in.
That's how they have it. It's a refueling mechanic in the wargame games.
Yeah, that makes me think of almost like Command and Conquer. We're gonna use our chronosphere every 8 minutes. Yeah, that's right.
But at the end of like the footage that I saw, they said that there is air-to-air combat, which means you can have dogfighters, covering your units, I guess, and also have anti-air, obviously, to defeat these units before they can damage your units.
Yeah, but the wargame games, they had dogfighting, and that was just terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't seen it because I haven't gone into it, but they just said it. That's what I can go from.
Yeah. My main problem with... Sorry, you say.
What do you think... I just wondering, like, what do you think of the sounds right now from what we were...
They sound like placeholders. They don't sound like the actual finished product. I don't feel even like giving a judgment on them because I don't think it's right to say, because we're kind of reviewing a game that's could be a year away from release.
Anyway, let's talk about something that's closer to release. Well, maybe not necessarily closer because we've absolutely no idea, but what would you speculate would be the future DLC for Hearts of Iron 4? Because at this point, we've received a lot of mods, especially like, for example, the Modern Day mod that's recently been released into an amazingly unplayable state. It promises a lot in terms of absolute gameplay changes. So could Paradox Studio even match a change like that?
So I can go through what we already know so far, and this is based on dev diaries and little hints and tips. And I guess there's maybe a balled up into a package where it's some of my assumptions as well. So they have announced that it is going to be Axis focused. So I'm going to make an assumption now. I'm assuming it's for 1.3. Are we on? Is it 1.3? Yeah, they're called 1.3 Oak apparently. And I'm making the assumption that patch and the DLC will come out together. I'm not 100% sure about that. It might be that patch comes first and then maybe they'll have another patch later. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but that's an assumption because they do seem to follow that process. It seems to be patch and DLC at the same time, then a patch in between, and then... Well, that's the formula they've followed so far with Hoi 4 anyway. So they've said it's Axis focused. That's from one of the dev diaries. That's not a leak. I'm not leaking information here. No, but seriously, they said it's Axis focused. So... my assumptions will be national focuses, as they always do with every DLC. So maybe Hungary, Romania, what are the Axis? Finland, maybe Spain, even. You know, the stereotypical Axis factions. So maybe they'll have focuses. I don't know. And they have also said in the dev diary that they are overhauling air as well.
That would be good. That is needed.
And the only thing we actually know what they're changing in air is their it was a screenshot that was on Twitter, and it showed radar as it was way more visual. So right now you plonk radar down and you just got to kind of cross your fingers and hope it's doing something because you don't actually know. But now on the actual air mode, it shows like rings to show the range of the radar, and it actually shows the visibility. So you're not only just detecting air as well. So I think that's what it does. Just to recap, by the way, it improves interception efficiency radar, and also it lets you see actual units on the ground as well from large distances, particularly the higher ones. Yeah, but that's what we know anyway. That's what's 100% certain from the dev diaries.
Yeah, well, my what I think they could do to the air combat, maybe they could patch this in DLC, is that currently with the air combat is you just whack up a load of planes into a airbase, select a random region basically, and then they're just going to fly around the map as animations. You don't feel like the air combat is there. It's not needed in the game, and I think it needs to have a place in the game that makes it almost necessary.
I mean, I feel like I can dumb it down even more, because I feel like what you do is you select a stack of 200, then you right-click on an air region, and then you look at a graph. That's the air combat at the moment.
Yeah, and there's nothing fun about that.
Yeah. The only thing I could say maybe is maybe it's because I'm a nerd and I love the numbers too much, but I guess when you do know you are doing air effectively, which by the way, I've got like 800 hours in the game, and I feel like it took me like 500, 600 hours to actually understand what was going on, then at least know you get some kind of slight satisfaction because you know you're effectively executing the air maneuvers, whatever, at least then you actually know you're doing something. That's the only satisfaction I've got from that so far, but I imagine if they showed the numbers and they were a bit more open about the tooltips, about what it actually did, I suppose it would be easier for the actual common player to actually know what's going on.
Well, Glenn, what's your experience of air combat in Hearts of Iron?
I don't know, like, for me, one of the biggest ways that I've really figured out how to do air combat is actually with a mod. It's strategic view adjustments. When I look at that, I know where I have air superiority, where I don't, where I need more planes, and where I have plenty of, and I can actually move them around. What I'm hoping with this, hopefully, new DLC that they're adding with air combat to revamp it, I'm hoping that it's way easier for you to see what you've shot down versus how many of your planes have went down, and then where I want the radar stations to show, what am I trying to say? To show where you really need your planes to be. Because when I played the game, I just throw random planes in different spots and hope. I don't really know, where do I need close air support? Where do I need tactical bombers at? Where do I need fighters? I just throw them around, basically, and then hope that that's the best spot.
Maybe you could tell us like a strategy that you use with air. Fraser, what do you do with aircraft? Is it kind of right click and hope they're doing something?
Basically, like for me, usually I have fighters, close air support, tactical bombers, basically wherever I put them.
What do you?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Well, well, the reason why I was bringing that up because I wanted to intersect and say kind of what I did. I mean, I feel like I've experimented with every single aircraft type now, and I feel like I've got a good enough strategy. And the strategy that I did to begin with, when I kind of first discovered what air was doing, and I feel like I was using it effectively, is kind of the same strategy that I use now that works really well, and that's just spam tactical bombers.
Yep.
They've got the best flicks. Go ahead.
And if someone's attacking you with tactical bombers, then you just spam heavy fighters.
Yes.
Well, to be honest with you, I feel like I've never really tested it on versus a player before. That's kind of my go-to trick. Because what you can do with the AI is you can just trick them. It's really, really easy to trick them. All you do is split your army, your air wing up, send them to some location you don't really care about, and they can fight an air war there. Well, I don't give a shit. And then while you're bombing the area you actually care about, so you're adding air superiority, you're reducing their defense, you're reducing their speed, you're bombing them and doing damage. You could do strategic bombing if you wanted to, but I think that's pretty useless at the moment. What else do you think you can do? Oh, you can do port strike. And I feel like port strike kind of broke at the moment as well. It just doesn't. I don't really feel like it works.
I never really even use it. I don't really think that it even works at all. Like when I port strike, I don't even think the ports are even being destroyed.
the AI seems to do a really good job of port striking you. Have you noticed whenever you put like a fleet in the port, they do, and I feel like I can't get my head around it. It can be nice if they did fix that. So it was, yet again, I think the problem is, yet again, it's not down to the fact that port striking doesn't work. It probably does work. It's just that it's not visual to let us know that it is working. Because if they could do it properly, and it probably does work properly, but if it did it and it was visual, we could recreate things like Pearl Harbor and whatnot, and I guess it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. It adds that historical flavor.
For that, they would have to also overhaul the boats, because when you get port striked, it's usually because you've got a fleet in the middle of nowhere that's patrolling, and then one of the ships gets damaged, so it goes back to the harbour, and then it gets hit by a port strike. So you want to know where your boats are, and that would just make the map so messy. I don't know how they could implement all these changes and still have a nice, clean, simple-looking game.
Well, prior to the release of this DLC, Together Victory, they did introduce a patch where port striking doesn't work if you have air superiority in that region. So, yeah, I think it doesn't just make it so the bombers arrive and then they get disturbed. It means that just the order just doesn't happen full stop. I think it's something like 40 or 50% air superiority you need, and then it'll start doing the port strike. So maybe that's the issue we're finding. Or it might be the fact that AI doesn't actively put its boats into ports, maybe. But then again, knowing where the enemy's... There's another issue as well. I mean, maybe Radar will help this out later, but it's like knowing where the enemy's fleet is kind of like really difficult as well. Maybe there was some kind of situation like, I don't know, like if you heard about the Hood and the Bismarck, and like when they detected where the Bismarck was moving to the North Sea, because they went through the Denmark Strait. I don't know, maybe some kind of alert to let you know that a ship has been sighted near the coast or something. You know, like just little hints and tips like that, and then therefore you can kind of structure what's kind of going on.
And the way I think they could do that is implementing a resistance system. So you know how we already have unrest in the game, where people get more unrest, and maybe if they could have say a resistance group in Denmark would be able to report. If you funded the resistance movement with supplies, then they would be able to report the fleet movement or the movement of troops, and you could use that information yourself. I think that would improve the gameplay, but I guess that is probably a very possible future DLC. Anyway, so we've probably talked about DLC for a long time, unless Ricky...
to say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
And if since I'm a noob in Hoi 4, right, because I don't play it a lot, one main problem for me is like there isn't a lot of visual feedback from anything, like in air support or like in air stuff. Like I don't know what is happening at all sometimes, because there just isn't enough feedback, at least for me, because I'm a noob. I don't know what's going on.
Feedback to where?
Like just if stuff is doing stuff for me, like if that's working what I'm doing right now or not.
Air, land, sea.
Yeah, like for example, in air, like we said, like it's just like I feel like visually, like there needs to be some stuff that's happening, because sometimes like I just lose planes all of a sudden, like, and they're all gone because I don't have a lot of planes, and like I just know all of a sudden like the enemy had like obviously you can see when an enemy has a superiority, but like sometimes that isn't the case, and they just send planes over, and you don't notice it quick enough.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's no warning. Like, you could deploy your air fleet in a place where there's no enemy planes at the moment, and then they'll just be gone in a second because the AI has dropped a huge stack on them for no particular reason, and you weren't aware, so you can pull the planes out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just to, I guess one topic we were going to jump onto is we're going to talk about recently upcoming mods and releases and whatnot. And
yes,
one of the new mods that came out, oh god, I feel like I've just suddenly forgotten the name. What's the name of the recent modern
day mod?
Oh, Modern War
check.
is one, and then Economic Crisis is another.
It is called Modern War, Hearts of Iron Modern War. 5 stars on the Steam Workshop, so evidently some people don't even know. Some people have downloaded the mod, given it 5 stars, and evidently not played the game. Or that's from the 50-strong developing team that they've got going on there at the moment.
So one thing I'm going to say is that a lot of people keep saying things like, I don't know, Hoi 4 is in decline, Hoi 4 is slowing down, and And when it comes down to the modding scene, that's the exact opposite. I don't think that's the case at all because, as I do, we just had a recently, well, I'm going to say big, quote-unquote, release of a mod. And of course, we found out, playing the mod, that the mod is so incomplete. It's had a visual overhaul, but the actual mechanics of the mod are not complete. To be honest with you, it's not ready for release at all. But I suppose on the positive note, where I'm going to spin it on is one, obviously it has some way to go. It can maybe reach something at some point. I guess it's got some promise maybe. And I guess the other positive is that it shows that the modding community for Hoi 4 is still live and kicking. So, I mean, if it goes by any of the videos that we preview and we go on, I mean, I'm assuming you guys are actively always trying mods. I mean, do any of you play straight vanilla anymore?
No.
The only time I played
anything.
straight vanilla was on a stream once, and that was it. I haven't played straight vanilla besides that stream in over 4 months.
What do you mean, like on stream, like a multiplayer game?
Like a live stream that I did.
Okay.
Like a couple weeks ago for the fans.
Yeah, I
just
agree.
played as Germany.
The base game just doesn't seem to have the same kick that it did when it was first released. Most of the new gameplay and events, they come from the mods, not the game.
Well, then, guys, if we're going to wrap up, let's review by saying our favourite mod and why we love it or why we hate it. I don't know. You could say one you hate if you want. I don't know.
Yeah, go for it, Dave. What's your favourite mod?
I don't know, man. This is, you're going to hate me for this because this is so cliche, but I love the Kaiserreich mod.
Are you sucking Kaiserreich mod Twitter account dick then? Is he going to retweet everything for you? No, he didn't even fucking retweet my video because I've done 4 videos with Kaiserreich in the title. 3 of them actually turned out to be Weltkrieg, and I got the wrong name of the mod, but I still published it as Kaiserreich. And so the guy on Twitter, he evidently doesn't like me. So by the time I put the 4th video and tag him and go, look, it's actually Kaiserreich, he just replies. He just goes, that's nice. He doesn't even retweet it. That's like common courtesy, mate. Fuck you. Retweet it now.
I love the developers of Kaiserreich. They are my favorite. They can retweet me or not retweet me anytime they want. I'm totally cool with that. No, just to be serious though, of all the mods I've ever played, it has the most input, it has the most development, and in all fairness, it feels like it's finished, you know what I mean? Like, there are parts of the Millennium Dawn, for instance, which another mod, people fucking love that mod, don't get me wrong, I love it too, but I feel like there's like no end game, you know what I mean? It kind of just starts, and then it kind of just treads water, you know? With Kaiserreich, you can kind of feel the road to war, you can kind of feel the build-up, you know? And it feels more of a complete game, kind of like Hoi 4 does at the moment, you know? It feels like it has that beginning, middle, and end. And yeah, I fucking love that mod. And every time they have a new release, I'm like getting so excited because the national focuses are always really good as well.
Right, Fraser, what's your favourite mod then?
Well, I don't have one because, like I said, I don't play Hoi 4 a lot. And
What's your favourite mod for EU4 then?
EU4, oh god, I play a lot of vanilla, man. I'm a vanilla guy.
Finest of the flavors.
Vanilla guy.
I don't know,
can
man.
accept that.
I've struggled with the games enough that I think mods will just make me even more suck at the game. Like, you know?
Go on then, Spiffing. Tell me your favourite mod.
My favourite mod. Okay, my favourite mod, you can go on the workshop now and see it. It is amazing. It is called Spiffing Brit Leader of the UK. Now, unlike most other mods, it has me in the mod, which is genuinely... No, I'm joking. It's Emperor of the World. I just enjoy it.
You think so?
I like Emperor of the World. As a mod, it appeals to me because it's got the Ottomans, and I'm not going to lie, I do like the Ottoman Empire as an idea.
It's kind of a weird thing to say, but the colour palette to that mod really... is really, I don't know, it feels like they've chosen all colours that seem to synergize really well with each, because when you first load the map and then you look at Europe, I don't know, it's very, I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing to like a mod for, because the fucking colours, but I don't know, it just looks really nice.
Dave, you're a simple child. Show you some shiny colours and you'll be distracted.
I don't know, man, it's...
Right, Glenn, what is your mod?
I think, okay, it boils down to 2. It has to be the Great War mod and Millennium Dawn. It has to be hands down. The Great War mod, I love it just because it has unique units. It does trench warfare really well for a mod. I didn't think it was going to be that good. And it just gas warfare. I love World War One. I love the setting of World War One, and Millennium Dawn just because it's modern day. I love talking about things that's happening right now.
Guys, if you have enjoyed this, please let us know in the comments below. Say if you want more of this kind of content. We don't usually make podcasts. This is something we're trying to trial out and see if you guys do enjoy this kind of thing. And apart from that, don't forget to subscribe and drop us a like.
Come up with a name.
Yeah.
Come up with a name for this. Or
Yeah, give us an idea. So we've got Spiffing Brett, we've got Feedback Gaming, we've got Glenn Games, and plus mystery special guest. This week we had Fraser, who is a German guy who likes vanilla. He's the finest of the flavors.
he likes it missionary. He likes it frontal. He's that kind of German. Very rare amongst the German community, I must say.
So Glenn Spiffing, I don't know. I can think of some kind of good name. Apart from that, any last words?
Yeah, I'm done. I think that's good.
All right, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.